What do you take me for? Some Republic serial villain? I wouldn't explain to you my master stroke if there was even the slightest possibility of you affecting the outcome. I did it 35 minutes ago. Welcome to Morning Reflections. I am your host, the FAT Mantis, and we're here to discuss Watchmen Episode 4. If you don't like my story, then write your own. It is a tour de force. It has action, adventure, and even a lube man. Episode 4 did an amazing job of continuing the tradition of this series of world building that is going on as they're telling a new story. A lot has changed in the last 30 years since the events of the graphic novel, and they seem to be able to fit it in seamlessly into this universe, and I am having a great time watching this. Another thing that seemed to fit in seamlessly was the introduction of Lady Trieu. She fit in like she had always been there. She fits in with this cast of characters, certainly what the show had been missing. She's clearly villainous in some level, but I really enjoyed her inclusion, and I loved that they were dropping more mysteries as they were answering them along the way. I thought this was another victory in the name of the Watchmen series, and as a result, I'm going to have to give this episode a whopping 91. Yes, I particularly liked the museum scene. Creates a holographic tree. It's the packaging around something very simple. It's a fun way to look up your family tree, and I thought that was excellently done. It was a beautiful scene. This show never hesitates to have beautiful scenes embedded within it. So now let's move into conspiracies before they drop more conspiracies. An expansion of a theory that I already had. As you all know, I went to great length last episode discussing how I believe Dr. Manhattan has put Adrian Veidt into a prison. And apparently I am both wrong and right. Adrian certainly is a prison, and he actually says those words this episode. However, I am reneging on it. I'm turning around. Now that the Lady Trieu is in the mix, I am going to say that I definitively believe that she is the person who is imprisoned him. Before, I thought she was a trusted friend, possibly a colleague, a fellow supervillain who took his company, but she probably took it hostilely, and she probably is. So as she reveres him while he's in this crazy prison that has been made by her. So our first indication of this is the clones. She seems to be a master of genetics, a piece of the puzzle we never knew before. But not just that, she went to the trouble of creating a baby mill under a sea that creates babies that he fishes for in some sort of abstract way. Now, it's not saying that Dr. Manhattan couldn't create this. The problem is Dr. Manhattan wouldn't create this. It's too artistic. It's certainly too weird. His would be as mundane as humanly possible. And this is clearly somebody with some sort of artistic vision. An eccentric built this world that Ozymandias has found himself in. Furthermore, I want you to take a look at this picture right here. So these are pictures that I took on my own cell phone, so if they're not very clear, I apologize for that. But this is the controls of the catapult that Ozymandias was using to shoot the dead bodies out of his prison thing. Now, if you notice, look at those circles right there. The writing on the switches there, those are Vietnamese symbols. Now, I know what you're saying. Ozymandias is the world's smartest man. He probably knows every language. He certainly knows at least 20. He could easily have built it with Vietnamese symbols, but the real question is, why would he do that? If he was going to use another language, he would use Greek, or he would use some ancient language nobody uses. What really is probably going on is he built the catapult out of things that were already in his environment. And it was probably a Vietnamese person or company that built this crazy prison of his. So I'm going to say that she is his warden. It would appear that Will Reeves is a member of Lady Trieu's cadre, and I'm not going to say he's a villain, but I will say that it looks like they are certainly up to no good, the way Ozymandias wasn't exactly a villain in Watchmen until the last issue. So what we really need to look at this is what is going on with this Will Reeves situation and her. So here is the connection, and here's what I am gathering. It would appear as if somebody or something wants to create a world where it's white supremacists on one side and victims of America. And Will, whose backstory seems to have a lot of wokeness, a lot of black power within it, is teaming up with this Vietnamese woman, Lady Trieu. And if anything, she seems to have a lot of connections to her old country. But as we must remember, that a vicious, horrible war was won in order to absorb Vietnam into the new American empire, and therefore a lot of atrocities. As we already saw in what is obviously a clone of Lady Trieu, or a clone of her mother, or possibly Lady Trieu is a clone of her own mother and therefore is cloning another one of ours, seems to have the genetic memory of the events of the war that happened in it, including all the atrocities. She wants her daughter to remember. That's a very important thing. So as Will remembers all these horrible things, and possibly might have obtained the memories of his father, knowing what kind of weird science he's exposed to, and Lady Trieu has, it seems like these people have all been screwed over by America, and they are not forgetting about it, and they are ready to lash out on it. So whether you can truly call these people villains or not, or just disgruntled people, they certainly are antagonists. So Cal, I've noticed that everyone is quick to accuse Dr. Manhattan of being a secret human and a character within the cast. Ever since Will talked about Dr. Manhattan being able to transform his forms, which once again is just an old man making a theory that he knows literally nothing about. Everyone and their mother seems to want to accuse everyone. The current person being accused is Cal. Everyone believes Sister Knight's husband, Mr. Good-looking himself, is Dr. Manhattan. Why? Because he doesn't believe in heaven, because he might be an atheist or something like that, because sometimes he's cold and calculating. To be honest, I do not believe there's enough evidence, and I do not buy it. Now, I want to hit you all up with an idea that might sound controversial, or possibly, people will say poppycock. They will look at me and say that I am insane. However, I am super convinced that Ozymandias created the 7th Kavalry. Now, I know it seems totally insane, particularly the fact that he's a Chianti sipping, super cultured lord of a manor he's so high society he doesn't even go to normal jail. He goes to Mars prison, right? Meanwhile, the 7th Kavalry are a bunch of what seems to be good old boys, possibly rednecks, possibly white supremacists. They seem like they would have nothing in common and nothing going on. However, if you go into Watchmen right over here and you look at this page right here, this is one of the extra information that goes between the chapters of Watchmen, and it is an interviewer interviewing Adrian Veidt, better known as Ozymandias, when he was a young man. And as he goes on, if you notice right here, there is a mention of the 7th Kavalry. And he spoke about how people have to evolve and change their way of life, particularly in this case in warfare, or you end up being the 7th Kavalry. Now, just because he said it doesn't mean anything, but honestly, most people that I know don't go around talking about the 7th Kavalry. It's simply not on our minds. So, okay, right now I have circumstantial evidence, but I want to point out another major thing. Rorschach, our man Rorschach, has publicly put his journals out there, but he has made it very clear of Ozymandias' plan. And if people believe his ideas, then that will destroy the world peace thing completely. People cannot have world peace if they believe the alien attack is a fake, right? They need this to go on. So I believe he created it to discredit his greatest enemy. Even in death, Rorschach is a thorn in his side, still jabbing at him from the grave. And basically what it is he needs to stop people from believing it. Ozymandias wants Rorschach's ideas to be associated with the most disgusting, most unappreciated concepts in the world, like white supremacists. As soon as white supremacists start absorbing this and start publicly being like, oh, I love Rorschach, Rorschach's the man, immediately people will reject it. People will say Rorschach was a lunatic, he was an idiot. I'm sure people are claiming that he's a white supremacist, even though he clearly was not. I promise you, read that graphic novel again. He was a jerk and he was very harsh on people, but he was not a white supremacist. I honestly think that he would kick the 7th Cavalry's ass if he was still alive today. But what I'm saying is, this was Ozymandias' chance to completely discredit Rorschach by associating him with such a disgusting idea, something that mainstream society just wants nothing to do with. So what do I think the final actual end-all be-all game is in this situation? I think it comes down to this, that Lady Trieu, she had been tracking some sort of thing that's coming down to the planet. As we all know, she is a master of life. So I'm assuming that this is some sort of genetic thing. My belief is Dr. Manhattan had been in communications with Adrian Veidt, told him he was going to send him either genetic information or an actual being that is the new super species that Dr. Manhattan was working on. While it was headed down to Earth, Lady Trieu did away with Ozymandias, put him in an intergalactic prison, and now has found exactly where it's falling. She bought the property and now has absorbed it. It looks like some sort of scheme about rewriting human genome seems to be in the works. Did you notice how Petey looked when he came into the office and he saw Sister Night? Almost as if he had literally just came out of his costume. I don't know, what do you think? Do you think Lube Man is Petey? What do you think of my theories of who is holding Ozymandias and what the future of the Watchmen's whole endgame strategy is? Let me know. Also, what do you think of cold beans? Until next time. Like, share, and subscribe. Go forth and love one another. Ciao for now, bitches.